On my most recent JJK video I made regarding Yuji versus Yuta, I got left this comment, which was more than likely left by someone who doesn't really read the manga in depth, but I wanted to take this opportunity to address a very big misconception in the JJK community, specifically regarding soul perception, attacks on the soul, and if attacks on the soul can be healed. Yuji doesn't have soul manipulation, that's more Mahito shtick, and we'll get to him later. What Yuji has is the ability to perceive the contours of the soul, meaning he can perceive his soul and the outline of the souls of others, which is why he's able to damage Mahito. How Mahito regenerates is because he constantly is retaining the shape of his soul, and if the shape of his soul is constantly being retained, then his body will follow suit and regenerate. He will never truly die. But Yuji attacks right at the source because he can perceive the outline of Mahito's soul, and because he's damaging that directly, he can damage Mahito. Now, after a few arcs and a bit of training, Yuji is able to use this knowledge that he gained in their battle with Sukuna, in which every single punch that he throws is constantly damaging not only Sukuna's body, but the barrier between his and Megumi's soul. Now, the reason these attacks are so effective against Sukuna is because he can't use RCT on them. Why? Because Yuji isn't technically damaging his soul, he's damaging the connection between his and Megumi's soul. Now, Yuji even takes this a step further later on, making a binding vow, more than likely foregoing the physical damage of his attacks to specifically only target the boundary between Sukuna and Megumi's soul. Again, reverse curse technique cannot be used on this because there's technically no damage being done to Sukuna. Now onto Mahito and his idol transfiguration. As Jogo says here, he claims that Mahito's curse technique cannot be healed, and there's a reason for that. Mahito's curse technique is not technically damaging the soul. What he's doing is changing the shape of the soul. And because the soul and the body are linked, if the shape of the soul is changed and the body can't keep up with the change, the body will either die or they will turn into one of his zombies that he's constantly creating. Despite that, this completely overpowered technique still isn't a one-shot kill. We've seen in his first fight with Nanami that despite Nanami lacking perception of the soul, Nanami was capable of reinforcing his soul subconsciously with cursed energy, meaning instead of Mahito one-shotting him, it would have taken about 2 or 3 attempts, as he stated himself. And later on in Shibuya, in his fight with Todo and Yuji, he doubts his ability to one-shot Todo due to Todo's soul being fresh and his being weakened. And in season 1, we seen between him and Sukuna, if there is a big enough power gap between the two sorcerers, Mahito also can't change the shape of their soul. Now moving on to where I really believe most of these misconceptions were born from, this statement right here about the soul split katana, being that if the wielder of the katana can perceive the soul, the wounds imparted by them cannot ordinarily be healed through reverse curse technique, but you must be aware of the outline of the soul in order to heal these wounds. I feel like people took these statements and conflated them with all soul attacks, meaning anyone that can perceive the soul, if they attack you and they damage your soul, you are incapable of healing from those wounds unless you can also perceive the soul. But think about it real deeply for a second. If that was true, if all you needed was perception of the soul and the ability to damage the soul to cause irreversible damage, what is so special about the katana? If all it took was perception of the soul, then what's stopping characters like Yuji, Sukuna, and Maki, characters who can perceive the soul, from causing this sort of damage to everyone they come across? They don't. You know why? Because this statement was specifically made about the katana and the katana only. It's the katana's special property. Throughout the entire final battle, characters who have never been stated to be able to perceive the soul were taking lethal damage from Sukuna and would end up fine in the end. Yuta tanked a fucking cleave to the face directly, and he just ended up healing from it and he kept fighting. In closing, the reason a full idol transfiguration from Mahito cannot be healed from is because he's not technically damaging your soul. He is changing the shape of your soul, and because your body can't keep up with the transformation, you end up taking lethal damage for it. There is nothing to be healed because there's no damage being done. And if you can't reverse the change of the shape of your soul, your body will also never be able to recover. And the reason wounds from the soul split katana can only be healed by those who can also perceive the soul is because that is the katana's special property. It is its innate technique, the katana's curse technique in a manner of speaking.